Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Chris Legaspi, and welcome to today's new live stream series, Lessons from the Masters. So, in this series, we're going to go over some skills that we need to make beautiful artwork, to make beautiful, realistic artwork, to make beautiful illustrations and artwork that is meaningful and is memorable and is appreciated by our audience. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the great works of the great masters in history, many artists that you already know and admire. And we're going to examine their work and see if we can learn various skills and apply it to our own work. And one of the great ways to learn anything quickly is to copy the experts. And that is pretty much what we're going to do. And in this series, I kind of want to show both an appreciation for some great artwork. So we're going to look at some incredible drawings and paintings from history. I'm going to show you how you can learn specific skills from these specific masters.
And before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my free Insiders Club. Insiders Club members get first access to these weekly live streams, and you also get access to other live events, and you get discounts on courses and programs, along with access to free lessons and other free content available only to subscribers. So all you have to do is go to www.drawwithchris.com, and there you can enter your email and you'll be good to go.
This particular video, we are going to talk about head drawing skills. And we're going to look at three specific skills and three specific master artists. The skills we're going to look at today are shapes, planes, and values. And to do that, we're going to look at the work of Nikolai Fechin, Dean Cornwell, and John Singer Sargent. So let's quickly talk about some head drawing skills. Obviously, I listed three here: planes, shapes, and values. These are just three that I picked up for this lesson we're going to focus on today. Now, in terms of, we're going to start with shapes, planes, and values. And of course, there's a lot more, but these, what I feel, are three of the most important skills to begin. Obviously, shapes are a big part of my philosophy. And particularly, we're going to look at contour, which is the outer shape, and then smaller detail shapes. Planes, which are the next evolution from shapes, which translate shapes into 3D forms. So from squares into boxes, from circles into spheres. And we're going to particularly look at planes in terms of box modeling, because translating an organic human head into a box is really, really important. We can't move forward until we can do that. And then rhythms, of course, and rhythms are more of a sort of a way to place feature, but planes and rhythms are very related. In a lot of ways, rhythms also describe planes and vice versa. And then, of course, we're going to look at values, and values are very, very, very important, obviously, especially if you want to add lighting. And we're going to look at particularly value shapes and value structure. And this is how you simplify and group values. And then we're going to look at ways to control value and particularly gradients, how values transition from light to dark. Okay, we're going to begin with the first head drawing skill of shapes. Obviously, shapes is part of the beginning of my philosophy, and in my mind, it's the beginning of realism, because we have to kind of set a boundary for what we're going to do. And if we draw portraits, we have to set a boundary for it. We have to set a boundary for the head and whatever that model's hair and things like that. And in my mind, one of the greatest shape designers, every artist we're going to cover today has excellent shape design, but one in particular is Nikolai Fechin, and he has just some tremendous work. Let's take a look at his work. Okay, here's just my folder of Nikolai Fechin's work, and just outstanding, unbelievably gorgeous portraits. But what stands out to me is his shapes. If you look at the contour, like this girl here, just look how strange and almost cartoony the contour shape is. That is wild. Even the eyes look very cartoony, very stylized, but it still works. Look at this beautiful shape here. It's just very strange. I just love this one. It looks like a cartoon, but it works somehow. I'm not quite sure how he does it. Well, maybe we'll find out. But that is what I look for when I go to do a master's study. Is I look for someone that has the skill that I want, and it's very obvious, right? Let's say, oh, I want to design better contours. My contours are boring. My contours are flat. My shapes are boring and flat and uninteresting. Which master should I look to for shapes? So I always find one that has really wild and obvious shapes, and Fechin comes to mind. So let's go back to Fechin here. When we look at Fechin, in terms of shapes, the first thing I look for is the contour. So if we look at our model here, we have beautiful contour. We have the corners here, corners here, corners here, corners here, curve, long curve, dramatic curve. So I'm looking for corners, curves, potential straights, intersections, small negative shapes. And you could see Fetching is just so interesting. Look at this negative shape here. Look at this interesting corner there. Look at that semi-straight there. The neck is almost straight. That is just wild. And then the look how like ovally her face is. That's just so wild. Let's see if we can get that contour in. So right now I'm just focusing on the contour. That's the beginning of what I think is important. If you've seen my videos before, you know I talk about the contour a lot. If you seen one of my or have taken one of my drawing classes or programs, you'll know contour is like my first lesson. Okay, so just before I go into the interior contour, I just kind of evaluate where I am. Really, the important thing to do with the master copy is you want to kind of treat it with as if you are looking at a model and as if you want to respect what the artist is doing, and particularly in shape. So now I'm going to compare to see where I'm at, and I'm pretty off. I'm close, but there's a lot of stuff that's not working, that's off. So I want to take the time to respect the original and do the best I can to try to match what the original artist intended here in terms of shape. And of course, I won't be perfect. And if you're following along at home and you have never looked at Fetchin, or maybe you're just starting head drawing, this part will be quite difficult. So do your best, but the key is to honor the original, honor what you see, try your best, treat it like it's a model. Don't rush. Really, that's the thing is that aside from working as a professional artist, I've also been teaching for many years, over a decade now. One common thing I see in master copies from students and artists who are going on their journey, who want to learn head drawing and things, is that they rush. They rush, 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 and they kind of do the master copy carelessly without respecting it or taking the time to look. Because part of what we're doing is taking the time to look. If you're watching this video and it looks like I'm drawing very quickly. I'm drawing quickly, I'm drawing carefully, but what you're seeing is that my decision making is fast. It's decision making that gives you the speed, right? When I look at, for example, this contour on her face, I look at that and I go, okay, I know exactly the mark I need at the angle I need. Well, I mean, I can get very close to what I need, the angle, the mark, the ins and outs, the bumps, the corners. So I know if I draw that mark, I can draw it fairly quickly because my mind can calculate what needs to be drawn and when, what angle, what position, the thickness of the line, and so on. So that is what you're seeing. So when you go to practice or study the master, when you're starting out, you want to carefully look. Go, okay, look at this contour. Let's zoom in real quick. Okay, see this contour? You see the beautiful nuance? Now, at first glance, it looks like just an ordinary curve, right? Ordinary curve with the bump of the eyebrow. But there's lots of little nuances. Like that is a beautiful corner, but then there's also, there's a little gap. You see that? I just saw that. Then there's the turns downwards. It's semi-straight. You see the difference between this line and the cheek? Almost straight. Cheek is quite of a soft curve. And then you see the overlap. And then you see where the contour is broken by the eyelash. And then you see where it gets nice and thin here. And then it bulges out again. But there's actually a subtle overlap. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. There's a subtle overlap of the muzzle. This is called the muzzle, this part of the contour, with the cheek. This is mouth anatomy overlapping cheek anatomy, which is correct. This is why Fechin is a master. This is why Fechin is a master and why we're looking at him today. Because he can do this in one stroke. It might take me 10, it might take a new person 1,000. But that is why we're looking at great masters. You see that? That's a shoo. Now, and then it goes in, and then there's a subtle overlap again. Here he's playing with the fat underneath the tissue, and then the subtle sharpness and the little gap. You see that same little gap here is also here, and then it goes a little bit of a bulge, and then a long curve, and then some reinforcement. Anyway, let's get back to the demonstration here. I just want to quickly show in that example the amount of care I think that needs to be done when doing master copies. That level of care and attention, that is what is necessary, in my opinion. And like I said, being a teacher, teaching art for over 10 years, I have seen lots of careless master copies. So if you're watching this, I hope you can start to put more care in your copies and really treat them with respect and reverence. The word reverence, reverence, reverence is it's a fancy English word that means you almost treat something with a semi-religious amount of care and attention and detail and respect, reverence. And I sincerely do have reverence for these men, these artists that we're going to look at, because I understand my philosophy, my way of life. A lot of it is based on the work that these great artists did before me. In a lot of ways, to say it in a cliche way, I would not be here for these great artists. I would not be here. I would not be have enjoyed the life that I have enjoyed and things like that. I would not be able to make the work that I like to make if it wasn't for the work of Fechin and Sargent. So that's what I mean by reverence. You want to start to have a deep, 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 deep appreciation. So anyway, let's get back. So I just refining the contour, refine. Now I feel pretty good about it. Obviously, I could keep going. Now what I want to do is start to look at smaller detail shapes, which will be the interior shapes of the face now, and some detail shapes in the hair. But I think the contour is quite good. It's probably not perfect, but it's pretty good. I can move forward. So obviously detail shapes that strike me are the face. But before we look at that, we should also look at the shape of her face itself. That's quite interesting. Look at the hairline. Here's an interesting shape. The shape of the face is quite simple. It's an oval. It's like a heart-shaped oval. But look at the hairline. You see this? You see the hairline? It's also an oval, but look at the way he draws it. You see how he goes sharp line and then texture, hatching texture, sharp line. You see that? So if you're ever curious about how to make an interesting hairline, look to this drawing. Look to Fechin. You see that? That's more of a design technique, but that is definitely something to note. And again, if you understand, if you just copy this and apply it to your work, your drawing will instantly become this much better. Your contours, your hairlines will become better instantly just by understanding Fechin here. So that's an example of the importance of master copies. And if you understand how to do them correctly, you can get good fast. I always say you can get good very quickly if you do enough master copies and you do them correctly. But unfortunately, most people don't have appreciation for them. What I'm doing is doing a quick lay-in of the guidelines so I can start planning the shapes. I think the most important shape is the almond eye and there's a cool shape of his eye socket. I'm just appreciating it now. Look at this beautiful eye socket. You see that? That is incredible. This is incredible. This is the first time I've really sat down and stared at this drawing, and I am so glad I did. Look at this beautiful eye shape. Wow. Wow. Look at how it flows from the nose to the razor sharp and hard and defined brow bone, to the softer side of the brow bone, into the flesh of the socket, and then into the flesh of the flesh and the tissue of the eye sphere, the eyeball, and the lids. Look at that! Look at that beautiful flow. And look how this eye bulges out. You see how this eye looks like it's going to pop out of the drawing. And that is incredible shape design right there, and incredible technique as well with line. But that is wonderful. Let's do that. Let's copy Fechin's beautiful eye socket shape. That is a valid shape. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And then I'm going to flow down through the nose just to give me some context. Because what I want is I want to get that eye socket shape, and then I'm going to move on to the next artist here. But the I kind of need to see where my nose is at and the lips is at. So I'm just gonna quickly sketch in the shape of the nose and the lips just so I know where I'm at relative to the eyes. I'm definitely pretty off. This My drawing is off. This part is, even though it's a study, it's still difficult. And the model's looking down, which makes it even more difficult. I'm gonna put that mole there just so I can have an idea of where I'm at. So wow, really pretty shape. Let's try to get that eye shape, starting with the upper lid. Wow. Almost looks like a cartoon. At least my study does. Super stylized. Looks like a Disney princess right now. Really pretty eyebrow shape. And let me just get the bottom of the nose. I know I'm running out of time here. So I'm rushing a little bit now to move forward, which sucks because probably if you're new and you're following along and you think, oh, Chris Legaspi made a tutorial and he's going so fast. I need to go really fast too. So I always say, please slow down. I'm only going fast because if I don't, this video will be 3 hours long, and we don't want that. So I have to rush for the sake of these videos. But please, 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 please do not rush at all. Slow down. Take your time. I'm only rushing because I have to move on for the sake of this video. And let's do that now. So I think in terms of a shape study, I'm pretty happy with that. I learned a lot about making a pretty eye socket. I learned a lot about making pretty hair, a hairline shape, beautiful contour shape as well. I'm going to definitely apply some of that into my own work. Okay, our next head drawing skill is planes. Planes is super important. It's a big part of my philosophy, and it's a big part of the American realist philosophy. That's my lineage, the lineage that came from the realist lineage that comes from Europe, and then later refined by the Americans, and specifically the American illustration, Golden Age illustrators and the wonderful artists and teachers there. And we're going to look at specifically Dean Cornwell. Dean Cornwell, one of the most admired, skilled, and successful illustrators, American illustrators in history. And what I like about Dean is his incredible ability to make beautiful 3D sculptural heads and figures. He's a master of planes and box modeling. Let's take a look at some of Dean Cornwell's work. So here's just my folder of Dean Cornwell's work, and you could see the incredible. See if I can find some heads here. Here's a close up of one of his paintings. You can see the clear and crisp planar language right here. The clear socket plane. Look at the clear side plane of the nose. Look how boxy that nose is. Look at the lips. Very simple. Plane, underplane, top plane, underplane. Beautiful language. Beautiful form language. Beautiful female. Look at how the eye feels like a sculpture. This looks like a photograph of a clay sculpture. This eye looks like it's going to bulge. It's going to pop out of the canvas. And that is done by beautiful sculpting of tones and understanding of planes, specifically the side plane of the eyelid. Of course, the eyeball is a sphere. Technically, spheres don't have, well, I mean, they do, but we don't render them with planes. But here, he basically made a subtle plane in the eye socket. That's what's making the eye pop out. And then the larger plane, the corner of the face, there's very subtle plane definition here. It's very, very subtle. Very, very subtle, but it's right there. If you follow my cursor, it's right there. You can see a little bit of dark spot here, a little bit of highlight here, which is the core shadow. Or it is a highlight, yeah. And then highlight on the chin, which is the corner. So beautiful plain language here by Dean Cornwell. Let's look at one more. I just love this. I saw this on Twitter, and I just had to grab this. This is on the left here, Dean Cornwell. Look at this beautiful eye. To me, this is one of the most beautiful eyes ever painted. Well, I mean, not that I've seen every eye ever painted, but this is how you paint an eye, in my opinion. Well, it's not. There's no right or wrong way to paint an eye, but this is in the American illustrative tradition. This is how you paint an eye with suggestion, and it's shape and plane all at once. It's a beautiful shape, and it defines a plane. Look at that clear box, right? Front plane, corner, side plane. And look at how he models the corner plane of the forehead. Front plane, corner, side plane in light. And you see how he puts the thick goop of paint, but the shape of the goop of paint also draws the plane. That is technical genius right there. And that is what we want in our own work. And of course, subtle side plane definition here. It's a bit more subtle. It's not as clear, but it's there. Let's take a look at Dean's work now. So going back to Dean Cornwell here, starting with the contour, and going back to the word reverence. I definitely have a reverence for Dean Cornwell. I have a deep, deep, deep admiration and respect for his work. He's one of the artists who, when I first began my journey as a realist, going from amateur to professional in Hollywood, I looked at Dean Cornwell quite a bit, a lot. He's one of the guys I looked at almost every day, just looking at his work, studying his composition, studying his heads, studying his design, and I was able to learn so much. You can learn multiple things from every artist, not just what we're going to talk about today. And Dean's one of them. I just want to get the shape down first, and because what I want are the planes. So I kind of need the shape. My drawing philosophy is shape comes first, and then planes come second. 2D before 3D. Planes are a three-dimensional idea. They're a sculptural idea, and therefore we need the shape first. We need the big ball of clay before we can start to carve the ball of clay. So this is what I'm doing here. Just getting the shape down. Now I want the major plane, which is the box of the head. So let's talk about that. I can see it. So I'm just going to put my center line first. This is not a plane, but I just need it to see where I'm at shape-wise. I need to see if my shape needs refinement, if it's ugly, if it's correct. I need to see the position of the head, and the center line will do that. And I'm going to do the horizontal center now. I'm just going to guess. I know it's not going to be perfect, but I'm just going to guess as to where it's at. Okay, and then I'm going to put the rule of thirds. And a lot of the language I'm using here is head drawing language. If you never heard some of these terms like rule of thirds, the thirds, the thirds, center line, horizontal center. I have a lot of free lessons here on YouTube as well, and I also have a premium head drawing program. It's quite extensive. And okay, what we're going to do now is the major planes, which is the corner. I need the box. This is what I want. Those of you watching who maybe want to draw better heads, and if your heads are looking flat, if your heads are looking out of proportion, and if you're having trouble turning the head, meaning looking up, looking down, looking left, looking right, the one thing that needs to be mastered is the box. If you can first see the box, and then draw the box in any position, that's the beginning of turning the head, because the head is really a box in terms of geometry. And we use a box because a box is easy to draw in perspective. So we need the head to be looking up, right? We need the head to be looking down. We need turn the head looking left and right. It's much, much easier to draw a simple cube than it is to draw an organic thing. So I want to turn the head into a box. Where is the box? Comment below. Do you see the corner? Do you see the corner? Do you see the corner? Where, for a box, we need the top plane, side plane, front plane. Right now, there is a box here. Do you see it? Comment below. Where is the top? Where is the side? Do you see it? The top is at the hairline, of course, in this case, because it's nice and bright here. And then, of course, it's not a perfect box. It curves, but then it turns that way. Where is the side? Where is the face relative to the side of the face? Well, we have a corner here where so the hair is not always where the side plane is, but it's a clue. So I'm just going to use that as a corner. The cheek is a corner. The cheek, here he puts a nice bit of tone. So it's light tone, dark tone. He's communicating to us there's some kind of corner there. I don't know exactly where it is. What about on the chin? Is there a corner of the chin? Well, he drew a line here, so that's a clue. And there's again another corner, light plane, darker plane. Therefore, there's a corner in that area. So far, I have 3 points. And then what about in the hair? Well, in the hair, he gave us a highlight shape. You see the highlight shape? That highlight shape is a corner. All highlights are corners. And then because it's a curved corner, it's a curved form, there is a gradient. There's a subtle gradient, meaning it's lighter, 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 and then it gets really dark. And where it gets really dark, That corner is the corner of the head. That analysis is important. I'm not going to do it again for the sake of time. But those of you who are watching, who have flat heads, who want to turn the head, rewatch that. That was some gold right there. This, what you just saw, I normally charge a lot of money for. So rewatch that. That is important. Rewatch that. I'm going to go over. So now I have one corner, 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 corner. So I'm just going to interpolate, meaning make my best guess, mathematic guess, right there. That is my best guess. So I am going to make my best planar analysis based off the Cornwell right here. And then the off corner, the opposite side must be aligned. Therefore, corner to corner, quarter to quarter must be aligned. Of course, there's a subtle curve. And there we go. So this model here has quite a bit of a boxy face. And then the next plane is the nose. The nose side plane is typically tear duct to a corner of the nose that defines the side. And here he puts a nice, he drew it with tone and color and value. And the underplane he also drew is quite easy to see. Sorry, I have to go through this quickly here. Again, I'm rushing the analysis. I have done this exact same thing on many videos, so you have to kind of go through. I have lots of free videos. Unfortunately, not many people watch them. I don't know why, but what whatever, and they're all very good. They're very good. They're quite long. Maybe that's why people don't watch them. I do mostly long form content now. Probably like 80 to 90% of what I teach is available for free on my YouTube channel. So you just kind of have to pay attention and put it all together. That's the trick. It's all free. It's all there. I do have a lot of very, 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 very good free content. My free content is stuff that you normally have to pay a lot of money for, normally have to go to school and seek out experts for. It's all there for free. You just kind of have to go through a lot of live streams. So this is my analysis. Sorry, like I said, I have to go quickly for the sake of this video. Let's get rid of the junk on the original image here. So if you just joined us, or if you skip to this part, make sure you watch the analysis part, the part where with the pink. I had to remove that so we can move on here. So now I'm just refining my shape a little bit. I know this jewelry is not a plane. I know that. I just need it there so I know where I'm at in my drawing. I know where I'm at. And let's see. Okay, okay, okay. Just quickly draw in the eye so I can just so I know where I'm at. Actually, I'm gonna draw the eye as a plane. Actually, yeah, that would make more sense here. I'm gonna draw the eyes in the three-plane model. Again, the American illustrative model. I first discovered this from Bern Hogarth, which I've done videos as well on Bern Hogarth. I'm pretty sure I have. Okay, I think that's a good stopping point here. Let's see, do we have the box? Yes, we have the top, which is right here, the face, and then the side. The side can be defined a little bit more. I'm going to, her cheek is quite interesting, at least in this angle. It's a bit challenging because she has such a strong zygomatic. That's this is bone right here. This bone that goes from your cheek, your face to your ear. That bone. Go ahead and touch that bone if you've never felt it. It's called the zygomatic arch. Go ahead and touch your cheekbone and then follow that hard corner. that goes back to your ear. That's what we're looking at right here. So the top plane of that is really strong. So he didn't define that. That's what I'm looking for. This line right here. This line right here. Right here. Looking for that line. He didn't define it. So I'm going to make my best guess and just put it right there. Just it's a guess. A hair also. The brow hair does that. The brow hair is tricking my eye a little bit. That's okay. I'm just going to make my best guess. All I can do. The important thing is that we see the corner and then the corner here and then make our best guess as to the relationship. Okay, so it's a little bit of tone that shows where it is, the difference of front and side, but it's a soft turn. So of course, that's probably why Dean Cornwell didn't give it a hard line. It's because it's a soft turn of a young, attractive model's face. So if he were to make it a hard line, it would probably age her, make her look older, make her look more aggressive, more manly. We definitely, I think, don't want that. So that was a good call by the dean. Anyway, back to what we were doing. So we got the box, we got the brow, we got the nose plane. So I feel pretty good about this study here. Okay, the next skill and the final skill we're going to look at today is values. The master we're going to look at is the great Sargent, arguably the greatest portrait artist to have ever lived, arguably. And he, you can look at Sargent for anything. You can learn anything from Sargent: color, composition, figure drawing, how to draw an eye. There's many, many ways to study a Sargent. Lighting. Today we're going to look at how he uses values, specifically simplified values, value shapes, and gradients. Let's quickly take a look at his work. Okay, here's my little collection of Sargents. I'm sure you watching this, you have your own Sargent folder. Comment below if you don't have your own Sargent folder. I mean, who doesn't look at Sargent? Arguably one of the greatest artists who have ever lived. So, of course, we can learn so much from him. In terms of value, look at that. Look at the simplicity and the elegance. This type of value scheme is called chiaroscuro. It's Italian for from the shadow, from the dark, light dark. So basically a dark, dark, dark room, but very simple, right? Dark, mid-tone, light. That's what we're looking for specifically from Sargent. Dark, mid-tone, and light. The three value system, very simple. It's a portrait here. Rockefeller, who was an American royalty. Wow, 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 wow. Incredible. Simple, simple, simple. Dark, mid-toned light. Dark, mid-toned light. Beautiful gradients, beautiful control. What can't we learn from Sargent? One of his most famous paintings. Very simple composition. Dark, mid-toned light, dark shadow, mid-toned skin, light highlights, beautiful, soft, subtle gradients. Of course, Sargent. Who hasn't looked at Sargent? Okay, let's do a quick little study of Sargent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to match the aspect ratio of the painting. I'm going to treat this a little bit like a tonal study, but I'm going to try my best to try to match the drawing. This part is difficult, I got to admit, especially if you're new to drawing, to copy draftsmanship is hard. Draftsmanship meaning the raw drawing, the shapes, the gesture and things like that, the proportions. That is difficult. I ain't gonna lie. Like this one's quite hard. It looks simple, but if you don't have the experience, it's gonna be tough to get it accurate. So I'm gonna try my best, and I'm gonna go through this quickly again for the sake of this video. You have to kind of be careful. Okay, we have Forgive me if you don't hear me talking. This takes a lot of concentration. I try my best to draw this accurately and quickly at the same time. So if I talk, it will take 10 times as long, and this video will be 3 hours long, like I keep saying. So sometimes I have to be very quiet. Sometimes you just I can't, you just can't do two things at once. Well, really, that's the, that's my philosophy in life. I think that's a good philosophy. You can only do one thing at a time if you want to do something well in life. What I want is to make sure that the darks in the eyes are there. So I want to get the drawing as close as possible. Now, if you are watching, if you're following along at home and you're doing Sargent tonal study, you don't necessarily have to be as careful with the drawing as this, at least the detail shapes, but for sure the outer shape. The bottom is important too. Expanded the canvas a little bit because I wanted to get the bottom. The bottom is important, the highlight on the dress. You see how bright her dress is? That's important. The little belt thingy or whatever, the sash or sachet, whatever. That's important. That's an important part of the value structure. I'm going to move on here. The drawing is not perfect at all. It looks quite rough. Like I was saying, I got to move forward here. The drawing, I'm not too happy with the drawing. It's okay. For the sake of this video, I got to move on. And again, if you're following along at home, like I always say, don't rush. I'm only rushing for the sake of this video. If you're following along at home, make sure you take your time. All right, so let's take a look at value structure and value shapes and gradients. So value structure, first let's squint at the original here. Let's all squint, 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 squint. Squint at it so that you can see more of the value information. If you squint, you'll notice that the hair in light, the hair in shadow, and the background, they all merge into one dark shape. Do you see that? You guys see that? If you're squinting, you will see it. If you're not squinting and you're not looking carefully, you'll think, "Oh, what do you mean, Chris? There's there's a value there, there's a value there, there's a value there. Oh, aren't they all different values?" No, they're the same value. If you squint, they're all really, really, really one dark value. I'm going to put that right here on top. And that's pretty much that's my estimation of the dark value of all the hair. It's not that dark, but I'm just going to put it there for now. Now let's look at what is the brightest thing. So that's clearly the darkest thing is the hair. What's the brightest thing? Well, it's actually her dress, the light in her dress. You see that? And it's really bright. It's almost pure white. In fact, it is. This is probably like 95% white paint from the tube. Oil painting tube paint isn't pure white like dead white like computer white is, like a digital software with 000 numeric value. This is has some nuance to it, but it is value wise it is bright 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 bright. And if you squint, you'll notice that the highlight merges with the light shape. So all of this is one big light shape, really, most of it. I'm going to do that. Now, what is the mid-tone? We have the darkest dark, the hair in the background, the lightest light. What is the mid-tone? Do you see it? Well, it's the half-tone of her face. Actually, her face in light, the dress in half-tone is the same value. So what's happening is there is a subtle nuance in value. But first, half-tone wise, we're right here. Right here, halftone, halftone, halftone. Her clothing in light, a shadow is a halftone. It looks bright, but it's not. It's a halftone. That's the genius of Sargent and the importance of value control. And then we have some nuances, right? We have a little bit darker halftone, a little bit lighter halftone, and also with the highlight. And we'll talk about those. Okay, now let's talk about the gradations and the value, the subtle steps in value, subtle differences. So first gradation. Is there a gradation in the dark? There is. You see here, this is the darkest spot on the wall, and then it gets brighter, 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 dark. You see that? So it's sort of a dark gradation right here. That's something to keep in mind. The difference from there to the wall or from there to the hair, that is a gradation. You see that? From here to the top, there's a gradation there. We'll talk about the difference in a minute. And then the hair from shadow to here is brighter. You see that gradation from shadow here, gradation. From bottom of the hair to the hair in light, gradation. You see that? It looks like it's brighter, and it is technically, but the difference in value is so small that we group it into one shape. That's exactly what we want to do, and that's exactly why Sargent did that. It creates more graphical impact, more compositional impact, and that's a gradation. What else? Obviously, the face gradation from half tone to light, right? From the cheek to this cheek, you see that? That's a gradation. Darker here, lighter here. What's in between? A gradation. And the chin also, gradation. You see that? The shirt, left to right. The light is left, upper left. You see everything right to left is a gradation. You see that? Gradation, gradation, gradation. And of course, the light is inverse. The light is a bloom. Bloom is like a soft kind of airbrush effect. You see that? Lighter, darker, 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 darker. So very soft light gradation there. So now in terms of value differences, starting with the darkest dark is here, inside her hair, the top of her head, right? You see that? That's clearly almost pure black. But then from here to here is different, and from here to the hair is obviously different. So there is a difference in dark. So what one way we can do that is with gradation. So you see that gradation from here to here we can use in our study, and that's what Sargent used. And that difference is the hair. So you see, this is the darkest dark, and this is the hair in light. The hair is also dark. You see that difference? That's important distinction. It's important to keep them, they're separate, but keep them the same, value-wise or grouping-wise. Same with the halftone. We have some halftone that's a little bit brighter. Although it's brighter, we still want to maintain the integrity, the sameness. Now it's starting to become the value of the paper. And then we saw with the light, there was some light that was a little bit darker, like in the shirt, her hair. So that's the light of the paper. So actually, the paper that I'm using is a toned surface. It has some value, so it's quite bright already. So this is really Sargent's value palette right here, and that's what we're going to try to copy in our study. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is block in the darks. We like to block in the darks and then the lights first. The whatever is dark first, and then whatever is light, and then I make my decisions on the midtones, just like we did with these little swatches. But do that now. And if you look at the dark shape, you can see just how graphic it is. And that's a beautiful thing about Sargent and what makes him one of the greatest of all time. He's arguably is the greatest artist who ever lived. You can make that argument is because he was the total package. He could draw, he could paint. He was an excellent draftsman. His drawing skill was unbelievable. and he can compose. He can compose, and he did it all effortlessly. That's why people admire him, in my opinion. At least why I admire him. One of the people why people notice him so much is his work looked effortless. The word is virtuoso, Italian word, usually describe musicians that have unbelievable talent. This has an effortless way of making marks. It probably was for him in a way. He was. Eyebrows next. For value study, it's not super important to be perfect with the drawing. In fact, it's going to be impossible anyway, unless you're willing to spend an hour or two to get the drawing perfect, which is another way to study the masters is shapes and proportions and things like that. But that's not what we're doing today. Since this is specifically a value study, a value analysis of Sargent, I want to prioritize value first instead of the drawing. So unfortunately, the drawing will have to take a back seat today, especially for this presentation. Got to make sure, for the sake of teaching, you don't want to watch me draw for 2 hours. That will be not what you signed up for. Not what we're talking about here. And that is about it for the dark shape. Now let me block in the light shape. Actually, the paper is quite bright, actually. Let me block in the highlight, which is on the bottom. Clearly on her chest and on her belt thingy. This is the brightest bright. Now her face is quite bright. I'm just going to put a note there. Not as bright as the dress, but I just want to put a note to remind myself, okay, face is part of the light value pattern. I just want to put this in so we can compare what we have, compare the darkest dark with the lightest light, so then we can compare and analyze, are we close to Sargent's value structure? Value structure working at all? Because it's working in Sargent, so if we just copy his, we should be good. So are we close? I think we're pretty close. We're not it's not perfect, obviously. We're close. Once we get the halftone in, it'll really make sense. So let's do that now. Let's just quickly get the halftone in, then we'll address the gradients. Okay, so what are the halftones? Well, it's all the gradations from right to left, pretty much. And her lip actually is a halftone. Sargent here does the classic blush, blush nose and cheeks. Blush is when you have blood come into the surface of your skin. So your cheeks turn pink, your nose turns pink. We've all seen this in people. We've all felt this way. We've all, when you feel embarrassed or something, your face, a lot of blood turns pink. Nice way to make a young female model look a bit cute, a bit innocent. Kind of adds and lifelike too. If you're painting and your colors are a little flat, it could be because you need more pinks in your portraits. I think I said this, the highlights. The shadow on the shadow on the fabric is not is not dark. It is halftone. So that's an optical illusion right there. Don't let that fool you. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the halftones. Now let's do the gradients and we'll be finished with this study. All right, so now I kind of got everything blocked in, pretty flat shapes so far. What I want to do now is to address the gradients. Let's start with the background. Let's start with the gradients in the background. Obviously the hair and the wall are a gradient. Let's see if we can get that to read. Oh, it does right here. You see, instead of making the hair too bright, I just draw a gradient, and that's kind of what's happening. It's all it really is. It's a gradient, which is a slightly lighter version of this same black. So it still reads like black, but it reads like a dark object in light now. And it does that because of intelligent value control, limited values. You see how the hair, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera. I can see it. It looks great. It looks like realistic sculpted hair. You see that? It's starting to take form. But I'm not really doing any hair. All I'm doing is a gradation, really. It's a shape and it's a gradation. So that is the genius of Sargent, and that is an example of good philosophy, of good picture making, good design, good principles, of good structure. This is what you're watching is an example of the power of this type of realist drawing philosophy right here. This is specifically a refinement of really the limited value structure first used by artists like Caravaggio, Rembrandt. Rembrandt's one of the earliest examples. And Velasquez, who came before Sargent. You see that? You see how it looks really sophisticated? But all I did was put some blobs of a slightly lighter value. That is the ticket right here. This is how you paint dark hair. You don't paint dark. This is how you paint subtleties in shadow. You don't do it by making the shadow bright. You do it by making smart shapes and good value relationships. Stay within the value shape, the value group, as long as it's dark enough that when you squint, this is how you know you're in the right same value group. So if you squint and then they merge together, which they are, you did it right. If you squint and then they separate, like the dark from the shirt or the dark from her nose, you see how the shadow of her nose and the top plane of her nose are they separate in value? That's too much of a jump, meaning they become a different value group. So that's an important thing to distinguish. Now let's do the light gradients now. Okay, we kind of started the light gradients already. Really, we're almost done. This picture is so dark. It's so dark. Biggest gradient is right here. There's a glow kind of effect happening here. So I can just do that. I'm using Photoshop with the airbrush tool, so it's easy for me. Obviously, if you're doing this in traditional, you can use pastel pencil. That would be a nice way to do that, or even white charcoal might be nice. Obviously, in digital, it's very easy to do these kind of things. And that's pretty much it for that. Let's do the halftones now. So finally, the halftone gradation. So really, most of the face, or the most of the face, really is a series of gradations, halftone gradations, light gradations. It looks like a sophisticated form modeling. If you're not trained, you will look at the face and go, "Oh, wow, that is very sophisticated, detailed, academic form modeling. Oh my God, I could never do that. Sargent's a genius. He's one of the greatest. I could never, I could never paint beautiful form like him." But really, when I look at it, I see patterns of value shape. I see smart patterns of value shape and gradations. This is exactly what I'm doing. Like, for example, right here, this passage right here, it looks like beautiful form of a mouth and a cheek. But what it is a gradation from the hair into the cheek and light, from dark to light. That's all it is. It's a gradation. It has the correct shape and the correct value, but technique-wise, it's just a gradation. So if and just putting in gradation, even if you try that on your next portrait and you mess up the shape and your values are a little bit off, as long as the gradation is there, it will read like some kind of transition. Because that's all that's happening really, is a transition from the shadow side into the light side. That's what gradations are. They're a transition from one value to another because light is constantly moving, it's constantly transitioning. So we want to get in the habit of gradation. So we want to look at beautiful masterworks that use gradations correctly, that use gradations to great effect, like the great Sargent, and before him, Velázquez, the Rembrandt, Caravaggio, even Sargent's contemporaries, the Bouguereau, Zorn, the Sorolla, those who came after, of course, we all see, like this eye socket. This eye socket, if you're not trained, you will spend 10 hours trying to model eye socket form, and it will probably look terrible. But if you are trained, you look at this and go, oh, okay, well, that's really a two-dimensional illusion. What I'm looking at this eye socket, it looks like sculpted 3D form to the layperson, but when you're trained, you look at it and go, oh, okay, that's all it is. It's a dark shape, a mid-tone shape, and a light shape, and then there's gradation in between to transition between them to make it look smooth. And that's all it is. That is a 2D, it's a flat graphic design illusion, believe it or not. Sargent is a graphic designer. That is important to remember because Sargent's tradition, well, Sargent is part of the tradition that eventually became the American illustrative tradition. That's me. That's me. That's Loomis, Bern Hogarth, of course, Bridgman. One of the artists to bring it from France to the U.S. was Bridgman. And now with the gradations in place, this is the last thing. Now we can add detail on top. Now we can just sculpt the details. This is the ticket. I remember Steve Houston was the first person to introduce me to this idea that realist artists like Sargent, like Bouguereau, like Zorn, like Sorolla, all the ones we admire, they're really graphic designers. They're really flat. They work very, very flat, but they just trick your eye with gradations. I remember when he first taught me that, I didn't believe him at first. I was like, what are you talking about? No way. These are beautiful, sculpted, modeled forms. These guys are academic drawing experts. He's like, nope. Watch. If you examine the 2D pattern, you'll see. If you examine the value pattern, you'll see, okay, it's just a bunch of gradations. And what they do is then they put the detail on top. They trick your eye with gradation, and then they add a couple strokes that look like detail. This is all I'm doing here. I'm not drawing wrinkles. I'm just drawing a couple lines in the right place that makes it look like wrinkles and folds. So it's all an optical illusion. So that is a big mind shift thing to make. If those of you watching who are serious about becoming better at realistic art, you have to start to understand and see the world more like a graphic designer. Because if you like, specifically if you like Sargent, 19th century Western realism, it's heavily, heavily graphic design based. And that's a good stopping point. I think as a study, this is pretty good. Obviously, I'd like to go more, but we don't want this video to be 4 hours long. It's already gone on way too long. And everything is there. The basic value structure, the light, middle, dark is there. The shapes are pretty good, and the clean group value groups are there, and then the beautiful gradations that transition us from, for example, in the shirt from light to halftone, and then the hair from dark to dark, from light to really dark, darker dark to darkest dark, and then in the face, of course, the beautiful halftones that halftone gradients that make the face feel like modeled form.